Yo, the internet is on fire right now, and the entire music world is trying to figure out what just happened with Drake. Because after a wild chain of events, leaked clips, angry fans, and one moment on stage that looked like a full public breakdown, people are now saying Drake might actually be quitting live shows altogether. And the craziest part? It's his own fans who exposed him and pushed him to this breaking point. It all started at a recent show where Drake walked out with that half smile he always does, trying to keep the energy high. The crowd was screaming, phones up, the usual chaos. But then, in the middle of a song, something shifted. Drake saw a sign in the front row, held by his own fans, and his whole vibe changed instantly. The smile dropped, the performance got shaky, and for a split second, the camera caught him looking frozen, like he didn't even know how to react. Fans who were there say the sign called him out on something he's been trying to ignore for months, and that was just the start. Another angle showed fans booing. Another clip showed people yelling things that hit way too close to home. Drake tried to laugh it off, but from that moment, the night spiraled. The mistakes, the pauses, the frustration. He kept wiping his face, pacing the stage, rubbing his eyes like he was fighting back something heavy. It looked less like a concert and more like a meltdown unfolding in real time. And then came the line he muttered into the mic, the one that shocked the entire arena and sent social media into full panic mode. A line that sounded like a goodbye. And trust me, once you hear what he said, you'll understand why the whole internet believes Drake is done with live shows for good. The story really begins way before that disastrous night on stage. People think Drake just snapped out of nowhere, but insiders say the pressure had been building for weeks, maybe even months. The tour schedule was brutal. The criticism online was nonstop. And for the first time in a long time, Drake wasn't brushing things off with jokes and confidence. He was carrying things differently, quieter, heavier. People close to him noticed it first. Small things, subtle changes, showing up late to rehearsals, pacing more, talking less, staring at the floor between takes like his mind was somewhere else entirely. But the breaking point didn't come from the haters or the blogs, or even the industry peers throwing shade. It came from his own fan base, the people he's been performing for since he was barely known outside Toronto. That's what makes this whole situation so sad, so dramatic, and honestly so shocking. Because the same fans who used to scream for him at every show were now the ones pushing him toward the edge without even realizing it. One insider who's been backstage at multiple dates on the tour said Drake was already on thin emotional ice before that night. He'd been complaining quietly that the crowds felt different, that the energy felt off, that people were coming more for clips than connection. He'd go backstage after shows and say stuff like, "They not feeling me the way they used to," and people would reassure him, but he wasn't convinced. Something had shifted, and he felt it deep. Now fast forward to the night, everything went sideways. The arena was packed, energy loud, the usual opening chants echoing across the building. But even from the first song, something felt strange. Fans weren't fully engaged. Some were recording more than vibing. Others were yelling jokes and comments during the quieter, emotional parts of his songs. Drake tried to ignore it, but you could see his smile tightening, his eyes darting around like he was searching for something familiar in a crowd that suddenly felt foreign. Then it happened, the moment that cracked the night in half. Right in the front row, a group of fans held up a huge sign. Now, at first glance, Drake probably thought it was just another message asking for a selfie or a shout-out. But when he read it, everything in him changed. The insider says the sign said something personal, something about a recent controversy he's been trying to dodge, something that cut deeper than any Twitter joke or blog headline. The words hit him so hard that he actually paused mid-lyric. His voice wavered, his face dropped. It was like someone yanked the floor out from under him. Crowd members noticed immediately. Some people laughed, thinking Drake would brush it off like usual. But not this time. This time, the hurt showed. He blinked fast, looked down at the stage, and stepped back like he needed distance from the whole moment. The band kept playing, not realizing what happened yet. But the vibe was broken. Then the sign holders, his own fans, doubled down. One of them yelled something loud enough for the mic to pick up the echo. The crowd reacted. Mixed gasps and laughs. Drake heard it clearly, and that's when everything inside him seemed to collapse. You could see it in the way he exhaled, like the last bit of patience he'd been holding onto finally snapped. From that point on, nothing felt right. He missed cues. He skipped ad-libs. He kept rubbing his temples like he was trying to hold back a headache or something heavier. And every time he walked to the edge of the stage, you could see him scanning the crowd with this distant look, like he didn't trust them anymore, like they had turned into strangers in an instant. The insider says that backstage crew members were watching nervously, whispering things like, "He's not okay," and "This don't look right." But they couldn't pull him off stage. The show was still happening, and Drake was pushing through it, even though his spirit clearly wasn't. Then came the next hit. Someone further back in the crowd started chanting something disrespectful. At first it was small, just a handful of voices, but it spread shockingly fast. People whipped out their phones, recording Drake's reaction, hoping to catch a moment. And when Drake heard it, he froze again. This time longer, this time visibly shaken. The camera zoomed in, catching Drake biting his lip and staring into the lights like he didn't know whether to continue the show or walk off stage right there. For a second, it looked like he might actually cry. His chest rose and fell like he was trying to steady himself, but the energy from the crowd wasn't helping. It was feeding the tension, making everything feel heavier, sharper, harder to stand in. And that's when he muttered those now viral words into the mic, the ones everybody's been replaying online. "I don't even know if I should keep doing this." The arena went silent, just dead quiet. Even his band stopped playing for a moment because they weren't sure if he meant the show or something bigger. Drake tried to laugh it off a second later, but the damage was already done. Fans saw the hurt. They saw the crack. They saw the most confident artist in the world suddenly look small under the lights. The insider says Drake finished the show like a ghost, barely smiling, barely talking, just going through the motions. And the second he walked backstage, he didn't speak to anyone. He just went straight to his dressing room, shut the door, and stayed there for almost half an hour. No team, no security, nobody. And what happened in that dressing room is what changed everything. Because that's where Drake made the decision that sent shockwaves through his entire fan base. The decision that might end his live performances for a long time. The insider says the hallway outside Drake's dressing room was tense. Nobody knew what he was thinking, and nobody wanted to knock on that door. Usually after a show, even a rough one, Drake comes out cracking jokes, dapping people up, asking how the sound mix was. But that night, silence, pure silence. Security stood around pretending to look busy. Crew members whispered among themselves, and the tour manager kept checking his watch like he was waiting for someone to tell him what to do. Inside the room, it was a different world. The insider claims Drake was sitting on the floor with his back against the couch, staring at the wall like his mind was drifting somewhere far away. His jacket was still on. His in-ear monitors were still hanging from his neck. He didn't even take off the mic pack. That's how shaken he was. He just sat there, replaying the moment from the stage when he saw that sign, when he heard his own fans shouting things that cut deeper than he expected. He whispered to himself, "Why they doing that?" Not angry, confused. Confused in a way that made everything hit even harder. After about 20 minutes, one of his closest friends on tour finally knocked, gently. Not the usual playful knock, but the soft kind people use when they know someone's hurting. Drake didn't answer, so they knocked again. Nothing. Finally, they pushed the door open just a few inches and asked, "Bro, you good?" Drake didn't look up. He just mumbled, "Not really." The voice was low, tired, defeated in a way nobody had ever heard from him. His friend came inside and sat on the edge of the couch, not too close, giving him space. "You know they love you," they said. "Sometimes crowds be wild." But Drake shook his head. "That wasn't wild," he said. "That was personal." He finally looked up, and the insider said his eyes were red, not from crying, but from the emotional strain of holding everything in. He went on, "I can handle hate, I can handle blogs, but when it's my own people, when it's the crowd that's supposed to ride with me." He paused for a long moment, staring at the floor. "That's different. That's something else." His friend didn't know what to say. They just nodded, waiting for Drake to keep talking. And he did. He said, "Every show the last few weeks, I feel like they not with me. I don't feel the love. I just feel watched." He rubbed his hands together, anxious. "Like they waiting for me to fail?" His friend tried to reassure him, but Drake wasn't hearing it. He stood up suddenly and started pacing, hands on his head. "I'm trying to give everything. I'm trying to show up even when I'm tired, even when I got stuff going on in my life. And they still doing this?" The insider says. His voice cracked a little at the end. It wasn't anger anymore. It was exhaustion, emotional exhaustion. And then he said the words that made his friend freeze. "Maybe I'm done with this live stuff." The friend blinked, confused. "Done like tonight or done for real?" Drake stopped pacing. He looked straight at them and said, "Done. Period." That's when the friend leaned forward, shocked. "You can't be serious," they said. "You Drake, performing is part of who you are." But Drake just shook his head slowly. "Not if the people I'm performing for don't even want me there." His friend tried to push back. "Bro, you're reading too deep into it. That was a small group. That wasn't the whole arena." But Drake wasn't convinced. "It felt like the whole arena," he said. "It felt like everybody." The insider said you could feel the weight of years of pressure hitting him all at once, the kind of pressure that doesn't explode. It collapses. Drake sat back down, put his head in his hands, and whispered, "I don't know if I can keep doing this." At that moment, the tour manager knocked on the door. He didn't come in. He just said, "Press is outside asking if you're okay. Fans waiting by the buses. They want to see you." Drake didn't even lift his head. He just said, "Tell them I'm gone." The tour manager froze. Gone like leaving early? Or gone like... But Drake cut him off. "Just tell them I'm gone." The insider says the tour manager quietly closed the door, realizing the night was much bigger than a bad show. This wasn't a simple frustration moment. This was something breaking. A few minutes later, someone from Drake's security team came to check in. They asked him if he wanted to go through the usual exit route or the back tunnel. Drake didn't answer. He just waved his hand, signaling he didn't care. "Anyway," he muttered, "just get me out." But before anyone could move him, another unexpected blow hit. Because Drake finally checked his phone, and that's when he saw the online posts. Fans had already uploaded clips from the show. The moment he froze on stage, the moment he muttered that heavy line, The moment the sign hit him, videos captioned things like Drake breaking down and "This is rough to watch." But the worst part? Comments from fans saying, "He not the same no more," and "Bro fell off for real." The same kind of messages that led to the sign in the first place. And that's when it happened. Drake slammed his phone down on the table so hard that his friend actually jumped. "I'm done," he said again, louder this time. "I'm really done." His friend stood up, trying to calm him. "Bro, don't make this decision while you're emotional." But Drake wasn't hearing anything anymore. He grabbed his jacket, zipped it up, and said, "I'm not performing for people who don't want me. I'm not begging for love." He walked toward the door, but before he opened it, he paused and said something even heavier. "If this is how it's gonna be, then that was my last show." His friend stared at him, stunned. "You don't mean that?" Drake didn't blink. "I do." And with that, he opened the door and walked out into the hallway, ignoring everyone, headed straight for the back exit. Security followed quickly, trying to keep up, whispering into radios. Drake didn't look back once, but just as he reached the exit doors, something else happened. Something that added a whole new layer to the drama. As Drake reached the exit doors, the insider says someone blocked his path. It wasn't security. It wasn't a fan. It was a journalist, one of those relentless types who had been covering his tour since day one. They didn't even try to hide the microphone. They just stepped in front of him and said, "Drake, the fans need answers. Are you quitting?" Drake stopped, frozen for a moment, staring at them like they had no idea what they were stepping into. His whole body tensed. He exhaled slowly, looking like he was deciding whether to snap or explain. Finally, he muttered, "I don't owe anybody explanations right now." The journalist leaned in, pressing harder. "But the videos are everywhere. Everyone saw what happened tonight. People are worried. What do you say?" Drake's eyes flickered with something raw. Frustration, exhaustion, hurt. "I say," he paused, biting his lip. "I say maybe I'm done with this live nonsense. Maybe I'm done letting the people I care about hurt me the way they do." The insider swears the words hit like a bomb. People watching from nearby were stunned. A few crew members whispered, "Did he just say that?" While security quietly tried to usher him out without escalating the situation. Then, someone from his team grabbed the journalist's arm gently. "That's enough for tonight," they said. But Drake shook his head, his tone heavier than ever. "No. Let them know. Let everyone know what it feels like to be exposed like this by your own people." As he walked past, he glanced at his phone again. New clips were already popping up. Slow motion replays of his paused performance, zoom-ins on the exact moment he saw the sign. Fans were commenting, some sympathetic, some mocking. Some were calling it the public meltdown. The insider said Drake's jaw tightened. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He just shut down. The weight of every expectation, every cheer, every criticism hitting him all at once. Backstage, his team was divided. Some were trying to calm him down, saying, "We can spin this. We can fix the narrative. It's not that bad." Others were just watching, worried he might actually act on his words. The insider says you could feel the room vibrating with tension, like everyone was holding their breath, waiting for the next move. And then came a voice, one of Drake's closest collaborators on tour. "Bro," they said softly, "you gotta see it from their side. People love you. They didn't mean it like that." Drake shook his head, pacing now. "I see it all right. I see everything. And it hurts. It hurts that the same people screaming my name are the ones making me question everything I've done for them. It's exhausting. I can't keep doing this." The collaborator tried again. "Okay, But maybe tonight was just an off night. You're tired, stressed, the crowd's weird. No, Drake interrupted, voice low but steady. It's not just tonight. It's months. Months of feeling like I'm giving everything and still not getting it back. And tonight, it broke something in me. The insider says the room went silent. Crew members exchanged glances. No one knew what to say. Drake's words were calm, but had a kind of weight that made it impossible to argue. Minutes later, the insider noticed Drake walking into a private lounge area. He sat down, pulled his hoodie over his head, and didn't move. The team tried to gather around, but he waved them off. "I'm done talking," he said. "I need to be alone." Then, the insider says the drama took an unexpected turn. Someone close to Drake, a family member who had been quietly monitoring the situation online, called. They begged him to answer. He finally picked up. The conversation was tense, emotional. Drake was explaining everything: the exhaustion, the betrayal, the sense of exposure. The family member pleaded, "We know it hurts, but you can't quit because of this. Your fans still love you. They're just loud sometimes." Drake's voice cracked slightly, the first time anyone had heard it in weeks. "I know, but it doesn't feel like love tonight. It feels like judgment. It feels like they want me to fall." The insider says even the team standing nearby could see tears threatening. Not the dramatic performance on stage kind, real, raw emotion. The kind that makes people uncomfortable because it's so honest. Then, just as everyone was holding their breath, Drake's phone buzzed again. Another video clip. This one was from multiple angles, showing the signs, the boos, the facial expressions. It had been stitched together with dramatic captions, making the meltdown look even worse. The insider said Drake stared at it, then looked up at his team, voice low but firm. "If this is how they're gonna treat me, maybe it's time I step back. From all live stuff, from all tours, from all of it." His team was silent. They knew he meant it. And that's when the next shock hit, because not everyone agreed with him. One of his collaborators, someone who had been on tour with him for years, stepped forward. "Drake, if you quit now, you're letting them win. The people that want to see you broken, they'll get what they want. Don't let them take this from you." Drake shook his head slowly. "It's not about winning or losing anymore. It's about peace. It's about sanity. It's about not putting myself through public torture for applause that feels fake." The insider says the argument continued for almost an hour. Words were calm, but tension ran high. Emotions bounced between frustration, sadness, defensiveness. Some people were trying to rationalize. Some were trying to manipulate. Drake listened to everyone, but the final decision seemed already written on his heart. After the discussion, he finally stood up. The insider describes the moment like something cinematic. He walked to the window, looked at the city lights below, then turned back to his team. "I've made up my mind," he said. "I'm not doing live shows for now, maybe not ever like before. I'm done letting people see me like this." Silence filled the room. No one clapped, no one cheered. Everyone just processed the gravity of what he had just said. The insider claims it felt like a shockwave went through the tour, like time slowed down for everyone there. And then, before leaving the lounge, Drake muttered something that would go viral the next day, spreading across Twitter, Instagram, and every gossip site. "I gave them everything. They exposed me anyway. This is it. For the stage." Crew members and team members tried to respond, but he had already walked out toward the exit again, hoodie over his head, head down, moving with purpose. The insider said it was clear. This was no impulsive decision. This was a breaking point reached after weeks of emotional strain. As Drake disappeared into the night, Fans online were already dissecting every clip, every word, every pause. Speculation ran wild. Was he serious? Was it temporary? Could the king of live performances really step back for good? And just when people thought the night's drama was over, the insider says another twist hit. Because someone recorded a private conversation between crew members hinting that Drake might not just quit live shows, he might retire from touring entirely. After that private conversation leaked, the tour went into full-blown chaos. Crew members were whispering in hallways, security was tense, and management was scrambling to figure out how to contain the narrative. Insiders say the mood backstage was like a pressure cooker. People were afraid to speak, afraid to make a wrong move, afraid to push Drake any further. The energy that usually buzzed with excitement and music had been replaced by tension and uncertainty. Drake, meanwhile, stayed in the van for hours before heading to his hotel. The insider claims he didn't say a word to anyone, staring out the window at the city lights, headphones on, letting the sounds of old tracks play through the speakers. He wasn't listening to them for entertainment. He was replaying the night in his head, trying to make sense of every boo, every sign, every comment from fans he once trusted implicitly. By midnight, the first viral clips had exploded online. Hashtags were trending. Jacka Drake meltdown, Yush quit live, Nush exposed by fans. Blogs and gossip accounts were spinning the story into a frenzy, some sympathetic, others mocking. Fans flooded social media with reactions, some expressing concern, some celebrating the idea that Drake was taking a stand, and some accusing him of overreacting. The insider says Drake's phone kept buzzing nonstop, but he ignored it because every notification felt like a judgment. The next morning, the drama escalated further. Insiders claimed that Drake called a private meeting with his closest collaborators. It was tense. Emotions ran high. Some tried to convince him to continue touring, citing contractual obligations and financial implications. Others, who understood the emotional toll, supported his decision to step back. The discussion was heated, with voices raised at times, tears threatening to spill at others. Drake remained calm but resolute, explaining that the decision wasn't impulsive. It was a culmination of weeks of emotional strain, moments of exposure, and a growing sense of disconnection from his own audience. At one point, an emotional team member asked, "Bro, don't you care about the fans?" Drake looked at them directly, voice steady but firm. "I do care, but if caring means being hurt in front of everyone, losing peace of mind, and feeling exposed like tonight, then I can't do it. This is bigger than applause. It's about sanity." The insider said the room went silent. Even the most vocal skeptics didn't know how to respond to that level of honesty. Then, just when it seemed like the tension might ease, a new layer of drama emerged. Someone close to Drake's family reportedly called, worried about the public perception. They reminded him of his legacy, the history of performances, the cultural impact of his tours. Drake listened, but the insider says he shook his head. "Legacy means nothing if I'm broken doing it," he replied. "If I can't feel joy on stage, then it's pointless." The insider claims that after hours of discussion, Drake reached a decision that shocked even his closest team. He would publicly announce a hiatus from live shows. Not a temporary break, not a vague postponement, a clear statement that he would step back indefinitely. The decision was met with mixed emotions, relief from some, panic from others, and disbelief from almost everyone. But the drama didn't end there. Shortly after, a fan leaked a private conversation that hinted Drake was emotionally shaken and considering stepping away from touring permanently. The leak went viral instantly. Tweets and posts flooded the internet, with fans dissecting every phrase. Headlines screamed about a public meltdown, about how Drake had been exposed by his own fans, about the future of his career being in jeopardy. In response, Drake reportedly spent the day reflecting. Insiders say he walked through his hotel room repeatedly, hands on his head, headphones blasting music but not listening, just letting it drown out the chatter in his own mind. He called one of his closest friends privately, saying, "I can't go back there. The stage isn't safe for me anymore. It's not the crowd, it's not the city. It's the exposure, it's the judgment. I can't take it." The friend tried to reassure him. "Bro, you're Drake. You've survived worse. It's just one night." But Drake shook his head. "One night is enough. The accumulation, it's everything. I'm tired of being exposed, tired of being judged, tired of giving everything and still feeling like it's never enough." Later that evening, The Insider says, Drake decided to record a short statement for social media. It wasn't meant to be dramatic, just honest. He spoke quietly, almost whispering, explaining that the tour was on hold, that he needed space to process, and that his love for fans remained, but that he couldn't continue performing live under the weight of constant scrutiny. As soon as the video posted, reactions exploded. Some fans flooded comments with love and support, understanding the mental toll of performing. Others criticized him for overreacting or abandoning them. Blogs, gossip accounts, and mainstream media seized on it instantly, spinning the story into a full-blown narrative of a superstar cracking under pressure. The Insider says Drake spent the rest of the night quietly, scrolling through reactions, but not engaging. He didn't post more. He didn't respond. He just let the storm pass around him, staying inside his hotel room, trying to regain peace of mind. By the following morning, the story had reached a fever pitch. Speculation was everywhere. Some fans were calling for explanations, others were pleading for a return, and insiders confirmed that Drake's decision was firm. He would not perform live shows again until he felt emotionally ready, and even then, it might not be the same as before. The Insider says this marked a turning point not just for Drake, but for the entire tour. Contracts were paused, schedules frozen, venues put on notice. The team began reevaluating everything, from production to fan interactions, realizing that the artist's mental health and emotional state took precedence over everything else. And while the public was still reeling from the public meltdown narrative, insiders revealed that Drake quietly began focusing on studio work, recording in private, releasing music digitally, and reconnecting with his passion without the pressure of live performance. It was a strategic retreat, emotional and calculated, one that shocked the world but preserved the essence of his artistry. The Insider concludes that what fans saw on that night, the frozen expressions, the muttered lines, the exposed vulnerability, was only a glimpse into the emotional reality of being one of the biggest artists in the world. It wasn't weakness, it was human. It was Drake finally choosing himself over the stage, over the applause, and over the judgment of those he once trusted implicitly. And so, the drama remains unresolved. Will Drake ever return to live shows? Will fans accept this decision? Will the internet continue to dissect every move he makes? Insiders say the answers remain unknown, but one thing is certain. The night he was exposed by his own fans changed everything, and the ripple effect will be felt across the industry for years to come. So, after everything that went down, the meltdown on stage, the signs, the boos, the leaked clips, the private conversations, the emotional confrontations, and the final announcement from Drake himself, one thing is clear: the king of live shows has reached a breaking point, and his fans are the ones who pushed him there. It's not just about a bad night, it's about months of emotional strain, exposure, and pressure that finally exploded in full view of the world. Fans are shocked. Some are devastated, some are angry, and some are confused. Social media is flooded with debates about whether Drake overreacted, whether he was right to step back, and what this means for his future tours. The drama is far from over, and speculation is running wild. Will he ever return to the stage, or is this the start of a permanent shift in his career? But here's the thing. This story isn't just about a public meltdown. It's about the human side of fame, the toll of constant scrutiny, and the reality that even someone at Drake's level can feel exposed, vulnerable, and forced to make tough choices. It's raw, it's real, and it's something fans can't ignore. And now it's your turn. What do you think? Was Drake right to step back from live shows after what happened? Do you believe this is temporary, or could it be permanent? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Hit like if you want to support him through this. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any updates, and turn on notifications, because trust me, when Drake speaks next, you'll want to hear it first. The drama isn't over, and your opinion matters.